So glad to see so many here to greet Jim Webb this afternoon in Charlottesville. You know we've got less than 2 weeks to go to the primary. I'm pleased to be working for and with Mr. Webb because I think he's going to help me win in the 5th. And all of you know who have supported me in the past, we need all the help we can get to win in the 5th, but this is our year.
I'm really happy to be here to see all of you and to be standing here with Al Weed. I'm going to say a few words, and what I'd like is for Al to be up here with me and to do our best to answer the questions that any of you have for either of us or for both of us. But I felt really privileged to have Al's endorsement the other night, and I intend to be out once this primary is done. I intend to be out campaigning with Al. I believe that the Senate election is going to be decided in the 5th, the 6th, and the 9th. This is where George Allen has traditionally been strong, and we're not going to yield 1 inch to him. Assuming
I'm actually the chair of the party in Nelson County, which is the neighboring county south of here, and I've been hearing from a lot of folks recently who are coming up to me and saying, okay, tell me about this primary that's coming up. And the concern I'm hearing the most from those people is, do we know for sure if this guy is really a Democrat, or is he going to get elected as a Democrat and then flip back to being a Republican again? Okay. And I'm hearing that from a lot of people. Okay,
the question, so that people let me give it a go here. The question is, am I really a Democrat? You know, what's the litmus test here? 3 months ago, I'd have given you a really long answer. I want to give you a precise answer. First is, Harris Miller's run a very smart campaign. I'll give him credit for that. He just put $500,000 of his own money into mailings. We haven't had that kind of money. I've read some of the mailings. I know why he is saying the things that he's saying. This is a democracy. I respect his right to say it. I have not said a negative word about Harris. The only thing I will say on this issue, I have not personally said a negative word about Harris, except in self-defense. And the only thing I'll say about this issue is I have not given money to Republicans, and Harris has. Harris gave money to Dennis Hastert at a time when Clinton was being impeached. Harris gave money to Spence Abraham when he was running against Debbie Stabenow, which is why Debbie Stabenow has endorsed our campaign. And if my association with the Republican Party causes people not to vote for me, I accept that. That's a democracy. The other thing I will say is we've had endorsements not only from across the state, but on the national level by 9 sitting senators, Democratic senators, and I think they will accept me as a Democrat, and I hope people hear me.
Yeah, what makes you a Democrat?
What makes me a Democrat? On every issue I think that's important to the Democrats, I stand with the Democrats. You know, I am pro-union, I'm pro-choice. I have taken a hard stand on gay rights. I was one of the first people to speak against the Iraq War. I don't know, you know, I'm essentially a realist in foreign policy, a moderate on social policy, and a populist on economic policy. And I don't know how I can say it. I'm an Andrew Jackson, Harry Truman Democrat. And what I mean by that is you measure the health of a society not by what's happening at the top, but by what's happening by the people who are down there working at the base. That's where the health of society is.
Let me go back to an earlier question of why are you a Democrat? For us in the 5th district, you failed us to go after one point, and that was our congressman was a Democrat, independent, or Republican. Do we have some type of commitment from you that you're not going to go the same way?
I've never run for office before. You know, I've stepped forward here. My loyalty is to the Democratic Party and to the leadership of the Democratic Party. It'll be so from the presidential elections all the way down. I'm looking forward to getting out and campaigning with Al Weed and see what we can do here this year.
I think to follow up on that, what might help would be if you could describe a little bit your transition from somebody who supported Republicans in the past to where you are right now, rather than saying, well,
I'll do that. I'll do that. There's a book called The Nightingale Song, written by a guy named Bob Timber. It came out 11 years ago, which was I was one of the people that he followed in a nonfiction way through the time I was in high school, whatever. And he wrote in this book about my political transition where I ended up aligning with the Republicans. And he says in the book, I was a lifelong Democrat. I'm like a lot of people. I mean, this is what I think is one of the things that are at stake in this election if we are to prevail in the primary. I'm like a lot of people who always consider myself to be a Democrat, particularly on the social issues and working class issues. But toward the end of the Vietnam War, the Democratic Party had gone so far over on foreign policy issues, and I came back from Vietnam wounded and mad. And I looked at the Democratic Party as existed where I was, and I said, you guys don't want us. And there's a lot of people like that who are natural Democrats, particularly Southwest Virginia, South Side Virginia, who will come back to the Democratic Party on working class issues and on the right issues, of the social issues if they're approached right, because of the changes nationally in these other areas. I was never a good Republican. I've never been a party guy on either side. I worked with Bob Kerrey when he ran for president in 1992. I've just not been a a lot of people in this room are lifelong party loyalists, activists, and I respect that. I have been working in a different set of professional areas in my life. I've always tried to help the person that I care about when I can. The last book that I wrote, which is called Born Fighting, was the first nonfiction trade book I've ever written. I took the Scotch-Irish migration, which was both sides of my family, down the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, and then how it impacted on populist, the articulation of populist democracy. And when I was writing this book, and this was like 02 into 03, after 9/11 and everything, I would spend a lot of time sorting out where I thought the parties were and where I thought I was with the parties. And I wrote a long chapter on Andrew Jackson, who's the founder of the modern Democratic Party, who was the first person of this culture to become president. And he created frontier-style populist democracy, what we now know as American democracy. And when I was reading about him and writing that chapter, I said, that is the party I want to belong to. That party, the party of Andrew Jackson and Harry Truman. And I did not think. Yeah, well, maybe.
Where did you start out, Bob?
I started out with Republicans too.
So anyway, all those things impacted me, and so when I decided that it's a hard decision to run for office, and I've been hearing this from people and talking to people about this for 3 months, trying to be as clear as I can. But whether or not I prevail in the primary, my political allegiance will be with the Democratic Party from now on.
Let me add something to this, because everywhere we go, that's the question. But our decision on June 13th is to pick the Democrat who's going to beat George Allen. And I don't care about your ideological discipline. If we're all together behind a strong candidate who's going to beat George Allen, we're going to be better off having a Democrat of either stripe in Washington than we have with George Allen. So where I'm going around into areas that are not quite as strong Democratic as Charlottesville, which is just about every area. The people who are going to make the change, who are going to help us win this year, are those that are saying, how am I going to vote Democratic for the first time in 20 years? How am I going to make that change? And we are talking to them about basic fundamental constitutional issues that are very, very important. And Jim Webb will be able to help them make that transition. And I think it's very important to say, if a man of his stature and his background has realized how wrong George Bush, George Allen, and Virgil Hood are, the rest of us, it's a done deal. So think about who's going to win in November when you vote next Tuesday in June.
What I want to do is bring people back to the Democratic Party. I want to help remake the Democratic Party.